This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com. As we prepare for Parshas Vayigash, the pasuk says, as Yaakov was coming down to Mitzrayim, that he sends Yehuda down on a mission. That's Yehuda shalach lefanav, and Yehuda he sent before him El Yosef to Yosef, L'hayros lefanav, to teach before him Goshena, to Goshen, Vayavayu arza Goshen, and they came to the land of Goshen. Says Rashi, L'hayros lefanav, what does it mean to teach before him? Ketargumai, like Targum says, Lefanos leimakom, he had to go clear out a place, find an empty location, clear it out. Yaakov Avinu had a big family, they needed a lot of real estate. Ulahayros heich yisyashava, he had to figure out how they'll be able to settle the land, where they could settle, where they're going to build houses. Lefanav, before him, kaidim she'agilashim, before he gets it. You can't just go to a new location, you have to know what you're getting into. Umedrish agada, but says Rashi, that's a simple pshat. Yehuda was like scouting out the area. But, says the Medrash, lahayros lefanav, hayra, lahayros, psak, lesakin loy beis Talmud, to establish a yeshiva, shamisham teitzei hayra, that from that yeshiva would emanate psak halacha. And who was charged with this mission? Yehuda. And the question is, Yehuda? Why Yehuda? Because there is a famous rule that Poskim could only come from two Shvatim, either from Shevet Levi or for Shevet Yisachar. Yehuda? Nah, Yehuda is just a leader, but he won't get the halacha right. In fact, the Gemara says in the Masechta Yuma Daf Chavav, I'm looking at number 3, Amar Rava, Loi mishkachas tzurba mirabanan. We do not find young Torah scholars, the Moiri, that paskin, Elo da'asi mishevet Levi, either they have to come from Shevet Levi, or mishevet Yisachar. Levi dechsev, yoyru mishpatach leYaakov, Shevet Levi paskin. Yisachar dechsev, b'nei Yisachar, yoydei bina, they understand wisdom, le'itim for the times, lodas ma yasa Yisrael. Frek, the Gemara asks, what do you mean? What about Yehuda? Ve'ema Yehuda nami. T'chsev Yehuda mechaykeki. Yehuda is my lawgiver. Asuke shmaitza aliba dehilchasa ka'amina. I'm not talking about somebody who could say what the law is. I'm talking about somebody who could probe the sugya and analyze and plummet the depths of learning and come with the right halacha, either from Shevet Levi or Shevet Yisachar.
Rebbe, it's hard to understand why we would say that from 12 Shvatim, that there are only going to be 2, maybe 3, that are going to generate, only 25% for time immemorial, that are going to generate Talmidei Chachamim, that can be poskim?
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Well, look, the Gemara says that out of 1,000 people that go into Yeshiva, 100 emanate who could learn Chumash, 10 who emanate Mishnayos, and only 1 who could paskin. That's not an easy thing.
And they're only relegated to come from 25% of the Shvatim.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Not possible.
From the other 7.
Not possible.
What Shevet are you from?
I'm from Shevet Yehuda.
And nothing Malchus comes from Yehuda, right?
Well, look, maybe it has something from my mother's side. I don't know. But in any event, why would Yaakov Avinu Dafka send Yehuda? Yehuda is not someone who Hayra could come from. Why wouldn't he send Levi? Why wouldn't he send Yisachar? And by the way, if you look in the Rambam, and we're going to come back to this Rambam, the Rambam Hilchos Avodah Zarah Parak Aleph, the Rambam says that Avraham Avinu was not only a great leader, but was established the yeshiva. Yitzchak maintained the yeshiva. Yaakov maintained the yeshiva. And then, if you look on the last narrow line in the Rambam, Yaakov Avinu lamad banav kulam, Yaakov Avinu taught his sons, v'hivdil Levi, and he separated Levi, umino roish, he appointed him the head, v'yeshiva, and he situated him in the yeshiva to teach the way of God. So we know that the Rosh Yeshiva of Yaakov's Yeshiva was Levi. So if Levi is the Rosh Yeshiva, then why would he send Yehuda to establish the Yeshiva?
The yeshiva's not going to be functioning until we all get there. There's nobody else there.
Someone has
So he
to-
just had, he was the building fund.
Somebody has
Somebody else.
Yehuda was the fundraiser.
Yeah, he was the
No,
fund.
no.
He built it.
Why does it mean
No
that
justician.
he went to be the Rosh Yeshiva? He went to establish it.
Why would you send someone else to establish the yeshiva that someone else would lead?
He has to build a building.
But,
There's no
yeah,
school.
you go do the dirty work, and then I'm going to be the Rosh Yeshiva.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
So now that everyone got off their chest all the things that are okay, let's see what the answer is. Okay, there's a sefer, Yekara Dairaisa, and in this sefer it brings down this question, the way we asked it, and that is if the Gemara in Yuma says on Daf Chavav that Moirei Hara come either from Levi or from Yisachar, then why was Yehuda chosen to establish the yeshiva? So look in the paragraph, the second paragraph, the Yesh Leimer. Alpima de'isa bezvachim nun gimel amid beis. The Gemara in Zvachim says, Beis HaMikdash haya bechelko shel Binyamin. The temple was built in the share of Binyamin. V'rak chelek me'amizbeach haya bechelko shel Yehuda. And one little strip of the Mizbeach was in the chelek of Yehuda. The Ritzua Yoitza, there was a strip that came out, Mechelko shel Yehuda, from the share of Yehuda, V'nichnasa bechelko shel Binyamin, and went into the chelek of Binyamin. Okay, so we know the Mizbeach was
Straddled the border.
went out from the share of Yehuda and it entered the chelek of Binyamin. Okay.
More than in the Spain. Rest of the building.
The Isa Sham, that the Sanhedrin rested in the chelek of Yehuda. Gemiri, the Sanhedrin bechelko shel Yehuda, ushchina bechelko shel Binyamin. Right, we know the Lishkas Hagazis, where the Sanhedrin convened, was in the share of Yehuda, and the Shechina was Ubein Keseifav Shachin. Yedid Hashem Yishkoin Lavetach Olav. Right? Levinyamin Amar Yedid Hashem Yishkoin Lavetach Olav Choyfeif Olav Kol Hayom Uvein Keseifav Shachin. So Rebbeinu Shalom's Shechina rested Binyamin, and the Sanhedrin was Chelek Yehuda. We see from here that even though Yehuda was not the Paisek, he was the place of Psak. You hear that? Where did Psak happen? In whose share? In Yehuda's share. Because the Sanhedrin convened in the share of Yehuda. The Yehuda haya makoim hara. After Yehuda atzon lo haya amara. Not that the Yehuda was the Paisek, but the Psak occurred situated in Yehuda's portion. The Moirei hara hayu Levi v'Yisachar. The Paisek from Levi v'Yisachar. And therefore, suggests the Sefer Yekara Da'iraisa, you know why Yaakov sent Yehuda? He didn't send him to Paskin, he sent him to make the place. Why him? Because in terms of place of Psak, we find historically the place of Psak was always in the Chelek of Yehuda. Okay, that's a very interesting possibility. Okay.
History didn't exist yet because he was creating this history.
Yeah, but I'm saying now.
All the people on the Sanhedrin were only from Levi
Le-
Yisachar.
That's what the Gemara says.
Was Mordechai from Levi?
Yeah, Mordechai was not.
He was a great guy, and
I said that.
I don't know him personally.
Wait,
What?
who's in the
Shlita.
He's still around somewhere.
Who's this?
The author of this memoir.
Yeah, Hagon Utzi Rothberg. Okay. And by the way, if you look in the Sefer Derech Sicha, what would you like to know?
Mordechai.
What?
He was on the Sanhedrin.
Binyamin.
He was from Binyamin.
But Yehuda also.
He wasn't from Yisachar or Levi.
The Jews could not have existed peacefully
Yeah.
if all of the Sanhedrin.
Doesn't mean the Moirei Hara. To be on the Sanhedrin, do you need to be Moirei Hara?
No, but my question was
Yeah.
that only the members of the Sanhedrin were only from those two who Shvatim, and you indicated that yes.
The Gemara says, "Le'mishkachas tzur b'merabanan." That's what it says.
Was haste.
A young Torah scholar. Young Torah scholar who could paskin only from Shevet Levi and Shevet Yisachar. We find members of Sanhedrin who not. Either they had mixed into them from Yisachar or Levi, or they're already older. But to be younger, that you need the kayach of either Levi or Yisachar. Possibly. Okay. Now if you look at the Sefer Derech Sicha of Rav Chaim Kanievsky, they asked him the same question. Well, if Levi was Rosh Yeshiva, why was Yehuda making the yeshiva? Why not Levi? So Rav Chaim Kanievsky suggests that, look, Yaakov didn't tell Yehuda he's going to be the Rosh Yeshiva. He just has to make the arrangements. To make arrangements, Yehuda would be more suitable. So they asked Rav Chaim Kanievsky, but I heard. Now, who asked him? The Sefer Derech Sicha was written by Rabbi Yehuda. He's like Rav Chaim's. He escorts him and he peppers him with questions and he writes down what Rav Chaim answers. So he says that he heard in the name of the Panovich Rav, the famous answer to the Panovich Rav, that the Rosh Yeshiva is from Levi. But to build the yeshiva, you need Gevura. What do you think about that, Reb Chaim? So Reb Chaim said, I also heard something like that. Okay.
He says that's what I said.
This is similar to what I'm saying. Yeah. Similar to what I'm saying. Similar, but not the same. Okay. Now, Reb Zalman Sorotzkin in his Sefer Aznayim L'Torah also wants to know, we know Avram Avinu had a yeshiva, and Yitzchak had a yeshiva, and Yaakov had a yeshiva. Why is he giving it over to Yehuda and not to Levi? After all, Levi are the Rosh Yeshiva. So he says two reasons. Number one, that since Yehuda took the responsibility to bring back Binyamin, and he took Achrayas, and he took it on the chin, he was the responsible party,
So he was rewarded.
so therefore Yaakov felt he's the most responsible person for this job, to set up the yeshiva. And number two, says Rav Zalman Sorotzkin, it's to teach a very important lesson. And that is, there's a big misconception that when it comes to yeshiva operation or synagogue operation, you have rabbinic leadership and you have lay leadership. And the two should not mix. Let the rabbi take care of his department and let the lay leadership take care of their department. And therefore, Yaakov Avinu is saying that is fundamentally incorrect. That the running of all operations should be in the hands, one hand. Says Reb Zalman Sorotzkin, Yaakov, who gave over melucha and societal operation to Yehuda, was saying to Yehuda, you cannot separate religion from societal requirements. The king who runs operations has to be the one who's in charge of religious dissemination. It should rest in the hands of one party. Happens to be in the yeshiva where I grew up in. This is their fundamental principle. They do not give over. They will decide when the garbage is taken out. Because they believe that once another party is making decisions even about trivial things, everything affects the religion, everything affects the learning. I remember Rav Miller used to say,
the Rosh Yeshiva takes away time from learning.
And even if it takes away time, but ultimately the strength of the yeshiva and the strength of the Rosh Yeshiva and the Rabbanim is only as strong as the decision making of things that affect the regular people. Once you strip them of that, once they're not the ones signing the checks, once they're not the ones deciding on the things that affect people's day-to-day lives, then you're stripping them of their influence.
I hear that you're saying the Rosh Yeshiva.
In fact, yeah.
The Rosh Yeshiva.
Rav Miller held the Rosh Yeshiva should be the one shoveling the snow. Why? Because once someone else is going to shovel the snow, so he'll make a decision. You know what? There's too much snow. No yeshiva today. But if the Rosh Yeshiva is the one shoveling the snow, and he knows how important it is that there is yeshiva today, he'll make sure it gets done.
How can you say that?
I'm not. I'm just saying what Rav Miller said, right?
Gush Etzion, one of the big Gush Etzion.
Yeah.
When the big fundraisers came,
Yeah.
to the yeshiva, looking for the Rosh Yeshiva. There was a man in the hallway mopping the floor. And that was not, that was the other Rosh Yeshiva, the one who was...
Not Rabbi.
Issenhoff's son-in-law.
Oh, yeah?
Big Tal, whatever his name was.
Oh yeah.
He was the one mopping the floor. She was so impressed.
Look, it doesn't always work. It's not always practical.
But it doesn't work in today's day and age.
But fundamentally, when you have decompartmentalized responsibilities,
Decompartmentalized. You have to have good management. You don't have good management.
okay, you could delegate. We're not saying you can't delegate.
Well, you sound like.
But in terms of who you should distribute to, in other words, if the power of societal issues rests in different departments than the religious leaders, you're getting yourself into trouble.
So what? So come again. The king.
No, we just do it one time and we move on. Yeah.
The king decides everything.
The king should decide. The king should be not only in charge of decision making for society, but he should, in his hands, should rest religious authority as well.
The board of directors of an organization.
We'll have you like Mayor Bloomberg.
That's what he's saying. Yeah.
The president of the shul versus the rabbi.
Okay, let's move on very quickly. Rav Zalman Sorotzkin continues. By the way, you see that in his commentary, he has a very modern view of what the Chumash is teaching us. In other words, in his perception of the Torah is addressing very real contemporary issues. Okay. So he says, "Ves Yehuda shalach laharos lefan of Goishna." We're not finished with this kind of stuff. He says, Yaakov Avinu is wandering his whole life, and we don't find anywhere that in his various wander, we don't find that on his way to Lavan, Yaakov called one of his talmidim. Do me a favor, before we get to Lavan's house, set up a yeshiva over there, or before we get. He wandered his whole life. Why all of a sudden now he's going down to Mitzrayim? Was it so important for him to establish the yeshiva?
Well, they're going to be there 400
He has a
years.
family.
Yosef.
He has a tremendous family. And he's going out of Eretz Yisrael.
Well, he had a family
Completely different.
headed to Eretz Yisrael. In the times of after he left Lavan, he didn't establish
And he was
yeshiva.
going to
His father had a
Years for
yeshiva.
400
Okay, but
years.
even when he left Lavan and he went to Eretz Yisrael, he didn't establish yeshiva.
But,
Says Rav Zalman Sorotzkin, he says, Hashem told Yaakov Avinu, Anoichi ered imcha Mitzrayim, I'm going to go down with you to Mitzrayim. So Yaakov Avinu was worried not for his own sake. Where is Hashem going to live in Mitzrayim? He's not going to be comfortable there. We know, Ein loy lahakadosh baruch hu ella dalet amos shel halacha. If Hashem's going to be coming with me, l'kvayt Hashem, I have to figure out a place where the Rebbeinu Shalom could be comfortable. Okay. Another thing. Ready for this one? Oh boy. Okay.
I don't know.
The pasuk says, "Ve'as Yehuda shalach lefanav el Yosef." Yehuda sent to Yosef. To who else? What? Yaakov sent Yehuda to Muhammad. That by Muhammad we're setting up a yeshiva. Obviously to Yosef. Who else is this message going to go to? Says Rav Zalman Sorotzkin, this was directed at Yosef. Yosef might think that, look, Yosef told them, tell Papa, tell Abba, Kol Kvoidi b'Mitzrayim. Tell him, Ani hamashbir l'chol ha'aretz. Tell him that I'm in charge of chesed she'en kamayu. I'm in charge of giving meals to everybody. I'm achieving, but more than I'm doing mitzvahs, Taimchei Shabbos, all the important mitzvahs to feed people. So Yaakov tells Yehuda, you go tell Yosef that with all your good mitzvahs and all your ma'asim tovim, there's a more important thing that you need to do. Establish the yeshiva. But what do you mean? I'm involved in something better. Hatzalah. Says Yaakov, go tell Yosef there's something more important than Hatzalah, and that is establishing a yeshiva.
Was Yosef teaching Menashe and Ephraim? He was learning Torah with him?
He was teaching, but Lamaisa, the message was directed to Yosef HaTzadik. In other words, Yosef HaTzadik, don't make the mistake of the masses. You know what the mistake of the masses is? Could someone tell me why when there's an appeal for Hatzalah, it raises more money than when there's an appeal for a yeshiva? It shouldn't be that way. Halachically, it's not the way it works. Halachically, there's a priority of a tzedakah that gadol Talmud Torah. Now, we're not undermining any of the chasadim. Kulam ahuv, kulam brurim, kulam gibayrim. Like it says in Koheles, gam mizeh umizeh al yanachas yadav. You have to support all of them, but the point is, you have to know priority, and that's what Yaakov is saying to Yosef. Despite the fact you're involved in Hatzalas Nefashos, don't lose track of the main tafkid of Klal Yisrael, and that is Lahoyos Afanav. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on, and let's discuss this inyan of what Rashi says: Lasakin loy beis Talmud, beis Talmud. That we know that throughout the generations.
Yeshiva as opposed to beis Talmud.
Rashi didn't know about yeshivas.
Let's see.
No, you had Yeshiva Shem Ve'ever.
Let's see, Rabbi Say.
That's what we call it. It's a where in the Gemara does it say yeshiva Shem Ve'ever?
Why is it?
What do they teach?
Why is it that we find a lot of talk about the acts of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and we find very little about the Yeshiva Shem Ve'ever? In fact, we do know that all of the Avos, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they all learned in Yeshiva Shem Ve'ever, without exception. How do we know this? Well, in number 8, the Yalkut Shmoini says, when Avram Avinu Malki Tzedek, who is Malki Tzedek? Shem. Malki Tzedek Melech Shalem, Hoitzi Lechem V'Yayin. The Yalkut Shmoini says, what does it mean, Lechem V'Yayin? Rabbah, the last words of the Yalkut Shmoini, Rabbanan Amri, Torah Gilalai. That Shem revealed to Avraham Torah. Shem taught Avraham Torah. And if you look in the Targum Yonasan ben Uziel in Parshas Chayei, when it says V'Yitzchak ba mavoi mi ber lachai roi, where is ber lachai roi? What is ber lachai roi? Targum Yonasan ben Uziel says V'Yitzchak hava aseh mi bei midrasha de Shem. He came from Beis Medrash of Shem, so Yitzchak also learned there. And by the way, the Targum Yonasan ben Uziel in Vayera says,
why is it called just Shem and not Shem Ve'ever? We always refer to it as Shem Ve'ever. Is that a different institution?
Shem was the big gun over there. His name was the first one on the top of the thing.
He was probably the collector.
He raised more money. He raised more money.
Yeah? After the Akedah, we know Yitzchak goes missing, right? So we learned different shatim over the years. Targum Yonasan ben Uziel says, he didn't go to Gan Eden. Udevaru malachei meroima yas Yitzchak v'ivili leveis midrasha d'shem Rabbah. Took him to Beis Medrash. So we know Yitzchak learned in Yeshiva Shem Ve'ever. And how about Yaakov?
14 years.
Yaakov learned by his father 15 years, and by Shem 58 years. Talk about sitting and learning. 58 years he learned in Yeshiva Shem Ve'ever.
He had a rich father-in-law, obviously.
Didn't it say 14 years?
It's 14.
14 years when he was running away from Asa, but that was not his first stint in the yeshiva, according to the Yalkut Shmoini. According to the Yalkut Shmoini, he spent 58 years serving Shem.
He had a wealthy father-in-law.
Yeah?
He left Yitzchak and Rivka when
Yeah?
he was 60.
Yeah.
So we learned there from the age of 2, and he wasn't home. He wasn't there to get the brachos.
He went home, Ben Azmanim. It was Pesach time he got the brachas. But he was in Yeshiva Shem Ve'ever 14 years. So think how many more years do you need? 44 years? 44 years. That's what it said. He served Shem 58 years. When? Which years? I don't know. When did he make the lentils? Well, Avram Avinu passed away when?
175.
No, not how old was he. When day of the year?
Maybe he was learning between the time Yosef was taken away until he went to Goshen. Could have been with all that time.
I don't know. But the question is, And this is raised in the Sefer Sam Derech of Reb Simcha Zisel Broidi, that if Abraham, there's a Rosh Yeshiva of Chevron, the more recent one, that he brings down the Avos from Makabel, the Torah, from the Beis Medrash of Shem and Aver. And you could ask, why does the Torah focus so much on the Avos and on Shem ve'Aver not? And what the Reb Simcha Zisel Broida focuses on, and what he harps on, is the distinction between the character and the nature of Yeshiva Shem ve'Aver and the Yeshiva of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And that is, the Lashon of the Targum Yonasan ben Uziel is that Yeshiva Shem ve'Aver was a Beis Medrash. What's a Beis Medrash? You come, you learn, and when you're finished, you go home. It's a place that you learn. But the Rambam that we started off the Shiur with, in number 4, uses a different terminology to characterize the Yeshiva of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And that is, look at number 4. That after Avram Avinu gathered together many Talmidim, look at number 3, Ad sheniskabtzu elav alafim v'revavos, thousands of people joined, V'heim anshe beis Avram. It was the house of Avram. Now look carefully. It doesn't say Avram taught anyone. V'shasal belibam. He planted in their hearts this ikar. And then V'yoshav Yitzchak. It doesn't say Yitzchak he sat. And Yitzchak taught Yaakov. V'yoshav. And then he separated Levi. V'hoishivu b'yeshiva. And again, the Rambam says after being in Mitzrayim, Kemat Kat, a little bit, V'ha'ikar sheshasal Avraham nekar. In other words, there is a difference, a fundamental difference, between the operation of Yeshiva Shem ve'Aver and the operation of the Avos. And that is, Yeshiva Shem ve'Aver had a big room, and if you want to learn, you come and learn. And if you want to, and when you're done, you go home. But the concept of
individual learning, not
the concept of yeshiva is more than just a place where somebody learns. The yeshiva implants in the heart of the Talmud a complete worldview and a complete approach to life, where it's not just conveying the information, but it's there's something is not just being taught, it's being planted in their hearts. It's a bias. What's the difference between a Beis Medrash and a bias? A bias is is a place where someone grows up, someone develops. It's a different development process in a yeshiva as opposed to in the Beis Medrash of Shem ve'Aver. So that is why the Rav Simcha Zisel says the reference to what Avraham Avinu can set up was something called a bias, the Beis Avraham. Beis Avraham is where the Torah is shasal, it's planted into the hearts of his family and his Talmidim. And that is the difference between the success of the students of Yeshiva Shem ve'Aver and the students of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and the families of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. That they were the ones who invented the modern day yeshiva. The concept of yeshiva is more than Beis Medrash. In other words, sometimes people, and it could be the same, you could have a yeshiva, and to some people it's just a Beis Medrash, and to some people it's a yeshiva. Beis Medrash, somebody goes, he learns, but it's not a transformation place, not a place of transformation. The concept of the yeshiva is, it's a place where the Torah is shasal, it's planted in the hearts of the Talmidim. And this is really what maintained Klal Yisrael throughout the generations, that the concept of yeshiva is not a modern day invention, but it was created by Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And this is what, if you look in Rashi says that's what Yehuda's job was. L'sak in loy beis Talmud, to establish a house. A house is a place where the Torah is the heir. But very interestingly, if you look at number 13, and we'll end with this.
It's like going the wrong direction also.
Yeah, look, I happen not to have anything against people who listen to Shiurim on the internet. But it's not a replacement from learning from a Rebbe. You don't have the environment. You're sitting in the comfort of your home, and it's wonderful. And people learn at home, on the road, while they're walking. It's a very important service, but it doesn't supplant. It cannot take the place of
There's no give and take.
the bias, the air of the traditional yeshiva. Yeah. Now, if you look in the Medrash Tanchuma, we'll end with this. They're very interesting. The same way we have a haftacha that Klal Yisrael will always exist, the Medrash Tanchuma says, V'yaf HaKadosh Baruch Hu karas brisim Yisrael shaloi tishtakach Torah shebal peh mipiem o mipizaram ad sof kol hadaros. We have a special covenant that the oral law will never be forgotten, which is an unbelievable thing when you think about the fact that we're still coming there, opening up a Masechta Chagiga 3,300 years later, when almost everything from ancient history is long forgotten. Nobody remembers anything, what happened, what went on, and we're still learning the same Torah Shebal Peh. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing.
That's why Am Yisrael survives. If it wasn't for the Torah, look how many cultures and nations disappeared.
So the Medrash says that we have a special haftacha that the Torah Shebal Peh will never be forgotten. Like the pasuk says, "Vani zois brisi oisam amar Hashem ruchi asher alecha udvaray asher santi v'ficha lo yamushu mipicha mizaracha mizar zaracha." And what did God do to ensure that this promise is fulfilled? He gave the Jewish people something called yeshiva. God gave us 2 yeshivas. That in these yeshivas they learn Torah day and night, and that people would gather, all of Klal Yisrael would gather in the yeshivas in Bavel 2 months a year, Adar and Elul. And there would be noisei v'noisei b'milchamta shel Torah until they would be able to clarify everything. Says the Medrash Tanchuma, those 2 yeshivos were never destroyed. There was no shmad. They were never spoiled. Yavan couldn't destroy them. Edom couldn't destroy them. So how did they survive the Churban Beis HaMikdash? That's why Hashem exiled them 12 years before the Churban. 12 years before the Churban. And Hashem exiled. Look what the pasuk says. Kol Yerushalayim, Kol Asarim, Kol Giborei HaChayil, Aseres Alafim Goyla. And the Chorosh and the Mazkir. So the Medrash asks, why are they called Giborim? What kind of Gevura is there of people who are exiled? Says the Medrash, it refers not to warriors, to Giborim in Torah. Who's the Chorosh and the Maskir? The Chorosh. If any of them opened their mouths, everyone became silent. That's their power in Torah. The Mazgir, if they closed an issue in Halacha, it was closed. Nobody could reopen it. And Hashem exiled them 12 years before the Churban. Says the Medrash Tanchuma, Mes Elei Haaretz Lokach Elu Chori Yehuda ben Yamin, that Hashem did a tzedakah with Klal Yisrael, that He advanced before the Churban. He advanced before Galus Tzidkiah. He had Galus Yechanya, right? Asher Heglaha Mirushalayim Im Hagoy Lajag L'Zayim Chanya Melchida Mordechai, the Chorosh and the Mazger. He was exiled. Tovia Purim is the next one coming up, so we're going to have to be doing that for the next couple months. Kedei Shaloi Tishtakach Mehem Torah Shebal Peh. And they sat in Bavel. Look what it says. From that day until today. And Edom never destroyed them, and not Yavan. And in fact, the yeshivas in Bavel existed there until throughout the times of the Goinim, and for many, many hundreds of years. And says the Tanchuma, the concept of yeshiva is that which ensures that the Torah Shebal Peh will never be forgotten in Klal Yisrael. And this is what Yaakov Avinu sent Yehuda to establish a base Talmud. Rabbi Isai, I wish you a good Shabbat.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.